Hello there. Welcome to the Star Wars Minute. It's your daily podcast in which we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the rise of Skywalker. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I am Tim Barnes from the Twitter handle TimBarnes451, which is the temperature at which jokes burn, and also the Blue Sky handle Tim Barnes. Blue Sky being what seems like the front runner of Twitter alternatives right now, I guess.
As of this recording.
Yeah. I'm really not sure.
It's only the front runner because it's invite only. Yeah. Genius move by them.
Yeah. Behind the scenes, there's a little bit of lag sometimes between when we record and when we drop these episodes, and I was I'm not going to say embarrassed, but I was amused, let's say, by the fact that I think in the first week of episodes, we're like, yeah, here's our, our
Mastodon
hive, our hive or our Mastodon like handle.
It'll be a little time capsule of what that 1 week where there was a big rivalry.
Well, that's why I think I ended up going back and posting our like Meerkat handle and our one of those other ones, those weird ones that popped up for a while.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I'm Jim Fagan. One last guy. You can also catch Tim and I over at Yubnub Pod and on the Yubnub Podcast at a much rarer frequency than this fine program.
Only dogs can hear it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But they love it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming back to talk about minute 33 of The Rise of Skywalker. Minute 33 starts off with Poe getting huffy that Finn won't share his big secret. And it ends a minute later with Rey finding a magic dagger in the shifting sands of Pasaana.
How poetic.
I just wish like every now and then one of the coffee beans would fall. Just like one every couple seconds.
Yeah. They'd be spitting it out. Coffee beans coming out of their mouth.
They could even just do that with the classic trick, just hold it in your hand and like feathers.
Yeah.
So we are in the middle of the argument. I wouldn't say that, but the passive aggressiveness on Poe's part about not knowing Finn's big secret.
Yeah.
So
there's a general feeling. Well, first of all, this movie ends with a platonic hug between friends, which is interesting. But it kind of feels throughout that, like, is there some sexual tension between this trio? Like, in some ways, it feels like maybe Poe likes Rey, or almost like that Luke Han thing with Leia.
It feels that way because that makes movies better, and it makes trilogies better, and you want it. So that's why I'm just encouraging everybody who can hear the sound of my voice, just put it there in your own mind. Just be like, "Yep, it's there," and it makes it more exciting and fun. Rey's got it with Kylo. She's got it going on with Kylo, but it just feels like that trio wants that. A trio of friends, two fellas and a lady, and it's Star Wars, and we're not going to have any kind of romantic chemistry going on. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's like both Rey and Finn are in love with Poe and are squabbling over that. That's honestly what would be happening, but
I think when you were describing it, I thought of Rey's like Lisa Simpson, Finn is Milhouse, and Kylo Ren is Nelson Muntz. Like, he's just a bad boy that just change him. But obviously, everyone knows that there's a big Finn. And there are a lot of people who were shipping Finn and Poe, and I think even the actors were saying they kind of wanted to do that, because it would be an interesting direction to go in and give their characters a little. But so I like to think that the actors are acting that, even if it's not. Even even in the next line, when Finn gets all huffy back and he says, "I'll tell you when you tell us about all that shifty stuff you do," meaning the carjacking a couple of weeks back. So
they said J.J. Abrams' go-to direction in this movie was faster and less sexual tension.
Less sexual tension. Wow.
He just kept coming out and pouring water on them.
Less subtext.
Cut it out, you two. Stop making this a naughty movie. That's my JJ.
If I catch anyone having a motivation, it's trouble.
That is a long-standing thing about George Lucas's direction of Hayden Christensen is that there were many takes where Hayden Christensen gave a measured, like, calm or more dramatic performance, and he was like, no, whinier, louder. Seriously, he would be like, no, more petulant, go, yeah, you're really upset, like, so you get there's your performance, you know. That's
going to be I'm fingers crossed that I survive to the point where we get to like a digital wonderland where, like, for a subscriber's fee, whatever, for like Disney, you know, Super Double Plus, you just get access to like all the stuff too. They just put it up there so you can get, so you can see all these outtakes, all these, you know, like alternate cuts.
Just put all the raw footage up there, because that way everyone
all
can
up there
edit
and give you the ability to edit within the app, like TikTok. You know what I mean? Like you can make your own Star Wars cut.
Wow.
Disney Triple
for
Plus.
a fee, and I would pay that fee.
I love that, because it takes the whole concept of like our whole, you know, like echo chamber thing, because now you'd have people who were totally unaware that they were different. You know what I mean? Their version of Star Wars would be their one, and they have no idea what other people's Last Jedi looked like. Wow, that would be weird.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
But you can only, you know, you can save them in there and share them with other people on Disney Plus. So it's an incentive, like, oh, have you seen that crazy version of Disney Plus of Disney Plus?
It's like Steam.
This crazy version of Disney Plus that the podcasters came up with. Now, have you seen this crazy version of Star Wars that so-and-so came up with? It's only on Disney Plus, literally. Like, whereas other Star Wars, I mean, eventually, yes, people would find a way to put, you know, bootleg it and put it out there. But you know, it would be this thing that like literally nobody had seen ever, that would only be available on Disney Plus. So
either that, or they just go like, we're going to give Scorsese access to all the footage and just see what the Scorsese cut of Star Wars is. I would love that.
Do it as an anniversary thing. Have a couple of different people do it at once.
Yeah, Coppola. Get all of George Lucas's friends from the 70s,
and some of his enemies,
and some of his enemies.
I love that this has now become the George Lucas, infamous for being a control freak and wanting every single thing about his movies to be exact. And now anyone can throw together an edit of it. Why not?
That's the best part is
let's let the
now
UPS
he has
guy
no
make a
power anymore. So I just want him to be like, hey, I've just decided this. And everyone's like, George, you can't do this. You're not. He shows up.
Step aside, old man.
With Scorsese and Coppola. He's like, we're doing this. Get out of the way.
Although it would be cool to see George Lucas's cut of The Last Jedi and the Disney movies. So, Anyway, back to the caverns of Pasaana, and the gang is walking around in the dark. Finn also has a lantern, which I thought was kind of, does he carry a lantern with him at all times?
Yeah.
No, I think it just gets handed around, doesn't it?
Okay.
Well, no, because Finn has he has like a flashlight. Remember, he goes turns it on.
Poe has a flashlight.
Yeah, right. Poe has a flashlight, but
yeah,
Finn's is like a collapsible kind of, more like a thing, like a carried around like an old man, like a ghost in the. No, it's an old like Scrooge carrying around the lantern.
He's looking for an honest
man. Which honestly, I'm okay with, except like, you're gonna have to show me him take it out of his survival pack and turn it on.
It's a big plot
hole. There's no time in this movie for things like that.
You know, wait a minute. This whole Poe was just walking around with a flashlight this whole time. Those are uncomfortable, and like of that size. You know what I mean? What is it? Just like attached to his belt?
Yeah, it's like a lightsaber.
Yeah, I guess. Now I'm going to go back and scrub through the rest of the movie looking for examples. Like, where are there lanterns and lightsabers?
It's my favorite role-playing game.
You know, on Dagobah, we get Luke unpacking his backpack for like 25 minutes in front of Yoda. It's just
like Lunchables in there.
Pacing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So getting back to the Poe turning on the lightsaber thing, I love also the meta-ness of that, because whom amongst us have never turned on a lightsaber and or held a flashlight and pretended it was a lightsaber? So
yes,
it's kind of a nice little moment between the fans and the.
I'm just like Poe. That's what you got to say in the theater.
I'm going to cosplay as Poe, specifically holding the.
That's a great idea.
There you go.
So yes, they're walking around the tunnels and they find a speeder, I guess, that had fallen into the ship, or can't quite tell what it looks too small to be a ship.
Get a car down there.
Yeah. But I like that the little thing on the front is a Sith. Like, the Sith have their own make and model of cars. Yeah, hood ornament.
Basically, the Sith have. It's just like the Sith have a. What is it? Mercedes or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
BMW,
That's
the
Third
ultimate-
Reich's car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
People are
Rolls-Royce
driving it
limousine with
around
the
and like,
wings.
you know what that is? Like, you can't drive that, man.
Yeah. Imagine a Sith car commercial or a Sith.
Do it.
Yeah. It's like just the car slowly rotating on a platform with like classical like
That
Vivaldi or
was
something, and it's Palpatine
in
being like,
Palpatine's
anti-lock
message.
brakes, you know.
They probably don't say horsepower in Star Wars. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
fathier power or
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah. So and then C-3PO says, "Oh, maybe we can find the owner." Like implying that the owner of this,
Right. Which I would love that just turns into like they just find some grumpy old guy who doesn't want to give them a ride. And they're trying to convince him.
he just abandoned his car there. He didn't want it
Yeah.
back. That's
So remind me, in the context of this movie, and perhaps in the novelization, what is this tunnel? This tunnel wasn't always there.
I can answer that.
You just say
Okay.
you can answer that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
These tunnels were created by the giant serpent that goes around.
There we go. Okay.
So
Yeah.
That serpent's going around.
Okay.
yeah, you've
And
seen the serpent. going?
how did Ochi's ship, like the mechanics of the Ochiness of it all here? It fell through the quicksand.
Presumably. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
this happens at the end of Adam Christopher's Shadow of the Sith. So at the
Okay.
end of this novel, we're following, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit this. It's kind of a long novel. We're following the whole time. I was listening to an audio thing, and like the story's completely done, and we finally get to this moment, and it's like, oh, it's gonna happen. And Ochi like has been pissing people off the whole book, and he pisses off like two random dudes, pirates, who basically shoot him down in his speeder, and then I think he crashes in the quicksand. But I'm like, I can remember that I was walking home from the train listening to this part of the audiobook, and I kind of like didn't really catch it. Like what happens in that moment? It just sort of like
And that
internalized, and then the book was done, and I was like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
I made it to the end.
That is why I'm so obsessed with Ochi, because I saw this movie in theaters, and I did not. I remembered a lot about it as I walked out, but I did not remember the name Ochi. I did not remember anything about the Ochi plot somehow. And then when this came out on Disney Plus, and I was watching it, and I was like, oh my god, this whole movie is about a character I've never heard of before, who Luke and Lando had a whole adventure about, apparently, and he is the catalyst of everything that happens in this film, and we only get one flashback of him and no context of his personality or anything. I've never seen a movie with anything like that before. Like it blew my mind that it was almost like I feel like they added that without telling anyone when I saw this the second time. The whole Ochi element of the movie.
Yeah.
He's the one-eyed Willy of
And I brought this up on the Yub Nub podcast at the time. I was like, do you remember Ochi?
And in the time between when you brought it up, which was, I don't know, in our first couple episodes 2.5 years ago now, right? Which is crazy. And now so much Ochi content has been created. Most of it in the comic books. Ochi is like Vader's kicking poster, I don't know, whatever. Like he's Vader's I don't know what to say that's not offensive, but he's Vader's guy, and he gets so abused by Vader, and then he's like essentially a drunk going across the galaxy, kind of screwing up and failing up, and it's just, I don't know, he's kind of a great weird Maz Kanata looking kind of character.
Like a tall Maz
yeah.
Kanata. And our first ever reference to him is when they bump into Lando on Pasaana, and he starts mentioning this.
His bones are his only on-screen appearance in any Star Wars property.
I mean, this I guess is a good example of, mentioning a character offhandedly or not really giving any story, and then someone else fleshing it out and actually working as a full character. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
Is there a character in the prequel trilogy who only appears as Bones that we know of. Because Bidlow Quirv, as we all know, is the skull that Luke throws at the door to kill the Rancor in Return of the Jedi.
Well, yeah, one of the things I was going to
backstory that then ends up as a skull. Is there anybody? Is there like a trilogy of skeletons that we can combine?
That was actually I was going to say. Name all the Star Wars skeletons we see.
Oh wow!
Great.
Oh okay. So, well, Bidlow Quirv.
Obviously Ochi.
Ochi of Bastoon.
We get Beru and Uncle Owen.
Oh yeah. Uncle Owen and Beru.
Charred there.
Don't we get a Tauntaun bones in the cave, the ice cave?
Yeah.
There's some kind of bone. Isn't there like a bones in the? No, I'm thinking of the droid actually in Jabba's palace. I thought there was but that's a droid hanging on the. Not a skeleton. Well, there's a crate dragon.
Droid body horror, but sure.
Any in the prequels?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of.
No.
Like, there have to be
but
some
I do think that
bones
Ochi is the Sifo-Dyas of the sequel trilogy.
Yes.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Sifo-Dyas
has a bone-like quality in the prequels.
He's like so central to the plot of the whole movie, yet you've never heard of him. You don't know how to feel about him. You're just told about him, and that's what Ochi is. So there's a precedent for the Ochiness of it all. But what's your feelings about Ochi, Alex and Pete? Like, did you process the Ochi element when you first saw the film?
No,
not as deeply as you did.
I love it. No, he lives rent free in Tim's head, but
I mean, it is exactly the type of thing that I love about that, where they just throw something out there and like, what is that? And you don't have to know about it. You know, it's like the bounty hunter at Ord Mantell or the Clone War. Well, now the Clone Wars are, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just throwaway thing. Then it's just like, well, you don't need to know about that now, but somebody can run with that if they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was in the movie itself. I completely forgot. You know, it's just one of 1,000 things in the movie, and it doesn't really. You know, it's like Abner Ravenwood's or the who's the guy whose skeleton we see in Forrestal in Raiders of the Lost Ark at the beginning. Yeah,
that's right.
But having read the Vader comics, and you're correct. They really flesh him out, and he's really a fun character. So I am glad that this is kind of like a reverse cameo of him.
It is now. That's how it feels, right?
It feels like the comic should have come out first, and then this is then you find out how he dies here, and then it's kind of like a little wink to the people who read the comics. You know, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's that guy.
Yeah. So
it's really on the writing end. I just don't understand how you get to the point where you write down the name Ochi and you center so much of the story around
Bastoon.
That's exactly what I was just starting to say. Is it's a triumph of a writer coming up with a name. Like when you sit down, to write, right, and you're like, you have to come up with so many names. And Ochi of Bastoon, I think the name being so cool is the reason he's been so fleshed out. In the comics, he literally gets a rap for... yeah, exactly. He gets a rap for shouting his name as he enters rooms. Like, I'm Ochi of Bastoon, and he gets, like, big splash pages with it, like, plastered across. And it's, like, all because, like... You nailed it with that character. Sifo-Dyas, not as much, to be honest.
Yeah. We don't know where he's from. That's why.
Sidebar: Tom Taylor do a supercut of all the Ochi yelling his own name before he goes into battle.
Do we know anything about Bastoon? Because
I
know there's in Star Wars we have Bestine, which is where Biggs had a friend on Bestine who was going to help him jump ship.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Bespin, and now we have Bastoon, and it's a kind of a little too close. I mean, I guess we have those, and we have places that sounded like here too. But it's funny that it was just like Bestine and Bastoon and Bespin.
All I really remember of it from the book, from Shadow of the Sith, is that people are not impressed by it when he is shouting that's where he's. People are like, "Who cares?"
It's the Wisconsin of the galaxy.
He's trying to make it a thing.
Right.
Maybe he has like a sponsorship. You know how like Gary Coleman always had to wear a hat with a logo on it? Maybe like the Bastoon travel tourism department said every time you go into battle, you mention Bastoon.
Yeah. And
gotta be it.
Yeah. So they find a skeleton. Do they recognize the skeleton as being Ochi? Or do they not? Or they just assume?
Yeah, they do.
How do they know?
Lando had a little. I originally was like, "How do they know it's him?" But Lando had a little pad showing because I think he had a little pad showing a 3D model of.
Oh, it's from his watch.
His
wrist link.
From his wrist link there. But we also find out
and
Poe
it's the 3D model of Ochi alive.
Yeah, but I guess he has his distinctive eye implants and Lobot thing.
He's
so,
blind.
Yeah, so
Right.
it kind of. Luckily, he had some.
This looks like a dead version of that picture that we saw 20 minutes ago. Really briefly.
Yeah.
Well, she has force memory. Her and Finn
Well, and
have force memory. They instantly retain anything that.
They are hunting him, right? That's like they're looking for clues of him.
That's
Is
true,
that what they're trying to do? I mean, it is really fortunate.
They're
that
trying to
they
find
crash
him
into
because
the-
he has a
place.
clue to where he may have a clue to where the Sith Wayfinder is that will let them then go to Exegol. So it's like two steps removed from their scavenger hunt. Yeah.
We released an episode where because we just saw the Return of the Jedi in theaters where we're talking about that, and we're talking about like how compared to so many modern movies, the plot of the Return of the Jedi is so straightforward throughout the whole movie, and this one, it's like there's so many curveballs constantly. So, this whole thing of like finding Ochi, then finding the dagger, then doing this ultimately to get to a planet that's hard to find because you need a wayfinder to get there. Whereas
it's like the little old lady who swallowed the fly. Right? Like they
Wait a minute. Why did she
the
swallow?
stormtrooper crushed in the sand.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if they're
found the Ochi.
Knowing everything that happens in this movie, is there a way to simplify it in Return of the Jedi where it's like we're just trying to blow up the second Death Star? We gotta open this blast door to have access to the thing to do, just like how simplifying what happens in this movie.
Well, it seems like essentially all you need is you have to get them to Exegol, where the Emperor is trying to get Rey and Finn Rey and Kylo to come to Exegol. Everything else on the way there is just kind of like obstacles and distractions as to how they're going to get there. And then I feel like once you're there, the movie is kind of almost like its own self-contained. Very little of what happened before has anything to do with. I mean, I guess the horses show up riding around on Star Destroyers and stuff, so they'd have to set that up. But yeah, it feels like a lot of complications for complications' sake. You know what I mean?
Complications, and then I guess
like
the difference
Felicity's
is you
in
don't
the
know.
movie. What does that have to do with? Like that is no. Anyway,
The difference is like usually, and historically, Star Wars has like this big. There's like a clear mechanic thing that you have to do. You have to blow up this thing, and in this one, it's just you got to get there and somehow kill the Emperor is the whole thing. It's not like a device that needs to explode or anything.
I mean,
like
I
that.
wonder if after The Force Awakens, I loved The Force Awakens. I really like this movie as well. I'm with you on this, Pete. I just have a good time with it, but I can't ignore the whiplash it gives me at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
But after Force Awakens, people were like, well, it's just A New Hope. Like, it's ridiculously just A New Hope again. And I was like, yeah, and that's great. But I wonder if JJ heard any of that noise and was like, I'll show them.
I'll make a different movie.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I was just trying to think of what, like, to simplify it, like, I was like, well, you could just have them find the Wayfinder here instead of finding a clue to get to the way, but then you cut out the cool part about having the ruins of the Death Star. So maybe just go straight there.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's how they knew to find, know.
I always felt that way too. They're like, we have to, like, there's this special way to get to the Emperor's homeworld. No one knows where it is. Let's definitely not start at the last known location the Emperor was in where he kept all of his stuff. Like,
let's not look in his room.
I don't know,
Yeah. I'm sure you'll get to this later, but how do you feel about Pete? I want to ask you this because you're the Rise of Skywalker defender here. Rightfully so.
The public defender.
There.
Underpaid public defender.
appointed by the court.
We I guess there are certain things we have to suspend disbelief on, but the second Death Star just straight up exploded. We didn't see half of it fall down or anything like that. Do you think there's just sort of like a creative license there in the idea that half of the Death Star is floating in water?
Yeah, I mean, chunks of it went all over, I think, right? It blew up from the inside out, and so it's sure we see the explosion, but we saw pieces go all over too. I think that's not too.
Yeah.
By that same, I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting to track. Would there be pieces of the first Death Star on?
Oh yeah.
Well, Yavin is a gas giant, but any of the moons of Yavin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There should be. It was bearing down on Yavin 4 there. So
Yeah.
I feel like
Jim, the way you raised your finger made me think like you were about to say another book that you read had a thing about the. And I was like, oh, cool.
No.
I think the survival of
I'm
chunks
out.
of the Death Star, to me, that's not a deal breaker. That's just kind of like, all right, let's just pretend it was on the other side. We could, it was on the other side of the explosion, so we couldn't see it. Kind of, that doesn't seem like
it was just like when I just saw Return of the Jedi in theaters, I couldn't help but think about it when I saw it explode at the end.
That is a big explosion. Yeah.
That one day raise, like you think that you see that big explosion celebratory, and then you just know that a chunk of it is.
Do you think eventually they'll add in big chunks of it flying? It would be like Darth Vader flying away at the end of A New Hope, where the big chunk will go spinning off into space, and then you'll hear Palpatine laughing.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I would just love to see also like a Dream extended edition things is just like they're in the throne room in Return of the Jedi, and then you in the side view you see this secret room that Palpatine has to his right. Doesn't she go into like a secret room to get the Wayfinder to the right of
this little closet?
This little closet there.
Coat hill, extra cloaks hanging
the cave,
up.
right?
Yeah.
Little Sith cabana.
Hand lotion.
Sith cabanas.
I do like, so now I'm still mentally in the back of my head, I'm still processing trimming this. So we cut out the sadly, even though despite its delectable sweets and colorful kites, we cut out the festival and we go straight to where the Death Star was last seen, and we can even get Lando by he's still hanging out there partying with the Ewoks. he's just like having a good time this whole time, and he's like, why would I leave
got
with
an
you?
Ewok apartment?
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, they brought me into the tribe. What am I going to do?
exactly.
I'm not going to stay? It was really rude of all of you. You just left.
He's just wearing like skins, like he's totally like living the Ewok lifestyle now.
He has to remember
We were
English.
talking about this just
3PO.
in our episode about Return of the Jedi. We were talking about how like of all the characters you could have easily given a happy ending to, it would have been Lando. Like Lando didn't need to have a dead missing daughter. Like he could have just been like, yeah, I took my fame and I took my glory and I went and made my money and I'm all good, man. Like,
which is so. Other than so this is good because this brings me back into the scene that I said I was going to talk about. That's in the novelization, but not in the movie here, because we did get when they run into Lando here, we don't hear so much yet about his. I think it was earlier in the novelization, again, not in the movie, where he goes through the whole thing about saying like, yeah, they took our kids away when we were younger, like when they were barely able to walk or something like that.
Yeah, the book is different than the movie.
Yeah, that's what I hear. And so then when they come back and they're like, hey, come join us, he's like, no, I'm spent. And then in the novelization, right as they're kind of doing the cave, it cuts from the cave, the serpent cave, and we see Lando's like kind of standing on a little precipice, and he looks at it and he sees the Millennium Falcon, and it kind of brings him back a little bit, and then he sees the Knights of Ren, who we heard were part of the raid. The Knights of Ren come and they start busting into, like, breaking down the door to get into the Falcon, and they're like tearing and he's like, hey, I don't want a beautiful ship like that to fall into the hands of these jerks.
L3's in there.
I know, and it totally like that, and you get to read him having a change of heart of being like, you know what, I will help.
A great
and
detail.
Then, like, yeah. Like, you get to see Lando seeing the Falcon and like being like, oh, inspired by that, and then you get this Knights of Ren thing, which also.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we don't have time. We have to do the big Snap Wexley Princess Leia scene.
Yeah, exactly.
No time. We have to.
We'd love to squeeze you in.
I'm still thinking about this idea of Lando being the mayor of Endor, similar to Greef Karga in season 3 of The Mandalorian.
He's the big man on Endor. He's literally he's the tallest person on the whole planet. He'd be like the Wilford Brimley.
Try to eat him,
but it's the magistrate. That's the term I'm thinking of.
Right. Ewok magistrate. That's what it says on his business card. His business card is made out of a piece of wood.
Speaking of nice details, we get a little bit of human detail from Poe. He's queasy at the sight of bones. And I thought that was a nice little, they didn't need to put that in, but it was just kind of a nice little, bit of characterization. That, this
was
tough guy
snakes.
here. And he's,
why did it have to be snakes? Bones.
Yeah, kind of.
I do like that, but how do you learn that about yourself? How often are you just around bones?
He's probably killed a lot of
trader.
people in his time, so.
Yeah, he grew up in the rebellion, I think. He was born on Yavin, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And his parents are
had a forest
pilots
tree.
too and all of that, right?
His parents
had a forest tree in his backyard.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Did you say he had a forest tree in his backyard?
He did. Yeah. So when this trilogy, this is a tangent
as well.
I'm going to say this really quick because I was really excited when the sequel trilogy came out. I was like, all right, I'm going to go all in on these new comics because clearly they have a plan. And if I read the comics, it's all going to tie in. So I'm reading these every new Star Wars comic that's coming out with before, during, and after The Force Awakens. And there's this whole thing about his parents are pilots. Luke gets some forest tree seeds or something, and he gives it to Poe's mom. And so it's like, oh, it must mean something that Poe grew up with a forest tree in his backyard. He should be the force sensitive one, maybe. And nothing is ever tied into that. It's just this thing that happened to Poe.
Burn a tree later.
I'm still trying to put into context. Maybe it just makes him lucky.
Do you think they would invite people over and go ahead, take a spin inside the cave, see what you fear the most?
Yeah. Or it's like a drinking game.
And it's always
Whoever
bones
loses.
for Poe.
Yeah.
Poe goes in, it's just skeletons dancing.
It'd be one of those
the skeletons
marionette
next to
kind of
David S.
skeletons.
Pumpkins. Yeah.
With a Home Depot, what is it, 30-foot skeleton or something like that? What are the ones that everybody...
Yeah.
So, Poe has a forest tree. He grew up with a forest tree in his backyard. Just fun fact.
You guys are getting a really good sense of what Yub Nub's like. I know you've been on the show, but this is what it turns into, baby.
Sounds like you guys know a lot more lore than we do. We should be starting to listen to you guys on the reg. So
I assure you that for me, it's sporadic but intense. So
narrow but very deep.
Right.
Anything else from minute 33?
They find the dagger.
Yes, they
find the
dagger, the magic dagger.
And I got lots to say about that dagger.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The dagger they see before them.
Save it for tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll do dagger talk. Assuming you guys can come back tomorrow.
Oh, we'll be here.
Oh, for the dagger?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
See? He gets
Come
Anything
for
for
the
you,
Ochi.
Chewbacca.
Stay for the dagger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we are glad they are coming back, dear listener, but we want to hear from you. Call our hotline, 8-Day Greedo, on your telephone, and it will take you to a voicemail where you can leave a ideally short and ideally entertaining message about something about this movie. What did you think of Kerry Russell showing up? Did you like your character, not like your character? And how about the Lucas a Force Ghost? What did you think about that? Should I do stuff that's more coming up?
I don't know.
Sooner?
Whatever.
Okay.
Make it funny.
Anything that's coming up, don't tell us stuff about the past. We're not going to use it. We're not even going to listen to
Don't-
it. Yeah.
Don't tell us we were wrong about something. We're definitely not going to use that.
Yeah, only tell us you were right.
Yeah, you can tell us that.
Yes. So
Right.
that's what we like to hear.
Right.
People just gravely whispering, "We were right" into the telephone.
Weirdly, we get a lot of that.
That's like everyone's fantasy about their father,
Yeah.
actually, now that I think about it.
That and great deals on car insurance. Our car's warranty is about to expire, so we better look into that. But so Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars, a minute.